Yeah, we're live. Yes. Says I'm not live to Facebook. Oh, well. Sorry, Facebook. Going to miss you. And tonight I have a wonderful guest with me here in state-controlled Britain. I think we're twinned with North Korea at the moment. But anyway, it's Lee Copus. Hi, Lee.
The world's greatest nutritionist on the planet. Here we go.
Yes. Can you do a Welsh accent?
If we look at Keto and Carnivore Way 11...
So
I
no.
won't do that again. No, I won't do that again. I'll give it a go. But
Yes. Have you had a good week?
yeah, not too bad. Yeah, actually quite a successful one with window cleaning. So been working pretty hard. Some new jobs and that, you know.
Okay. Well, talking of Richard, by the way, for people who don't know, he's in South Africa, Tim Noakes' organisation, doing a speech there. Oh, look, Carnivore Muscle, he's here. That's good. So good. He's done it twice. LW, we've got Vitaligus, which is a great name, Nuria, Gazamonga. Hello from State Control Britain. Yes, right about. You might know a bit about this. MJ, is there any meetups planned in the UK soon? Do you know of any?
I mean, we're going to do the conference like we done just over a year ago, aren't we, at the Peak District?
Mm-hmm.
And we've got another one in Kent, the Kent Carnivore Meetup. Hey! Yeah, that's over in Ainsford. So it's literally 10 minutes from where I live. So that will be at a farm, basically.
Mhm.
I met my husband over there and that car went down there to have a look. So that will be in July next year, about 9-10 months or whatever it is. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the Carnivore conference is around that time as well, isn't it?
Yes, I think that was in June, maybe. So I think this one's after. They're quite close. So yeah, we'll see what happens with those.
But nothing for 2025, I'm afraid. John Little has given us a super chat, which is really nice, of £1.99. It's amazing. Thank you. And when I say that, that's not tongue in cheek. That it all mounts up and it really helps. Any little bit of support that you can give helps the channel. If you can't afford to do that, then a like, share, a comment, subscribe is all helpful. What? How many subscribers are you up to, Lee? Roughly?
I think I've just broke 83,000. So yeah, doing too bad.
I'm glad you added the 1,000 there. I got 83.
Yeah. It's funny. I think the better you do, like even in life, it's like, oh, how much savings do you like save every month? Oh, about 100, 100K. It's just casual. It's like, oh yeah, doing so well. Yeah, I'm not quite there yet.
Catherine is saying that she's so glad that you got Leon. Thank you. Sorry, I'm on my friend Ears Eat Meat Hill channel. I'm in Southwest Devon. Does that make sense to you?
I see Lee there, and I know that word. Not really, actually. I don't know what that is. My friend's Ears Eat Meat Hill channel. Watching it on a friend's channel, perhaps. Yeah. Southwest Devon. Cool.
Okay. Kevin Hemming. Okay. Well, anyway, we've got an actual question here from Kevin Hemingway, which is such a great name. One of my favourite books is obviously Ernest Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea, which is just a great book. Anyway, right. I have been having trouble sleeping. Nothing to do with the low-carb diet. It was happening before and ongoing. I've tried various supplements of magnesium glycinate, but doesn't appear to be working. I'm assuming, although that's got a Q in front of it, that's still a statement, which is my terrible English degree coming out. But I think he's asking any suggestions.
I think the best way every single day would be just to get up as early as possible with the morning light, basically. If you can get up and witness and experience the sun rising, that's always going to set your circadian clock like nothing else. Another thing, I think, magnesium is obviously something that a lot of people use. What I would perhaps look at, if you're consuming a lot of dairy or eggs, calcium, maybe having an antagonistic effect on the magnesium, that may be an issue, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Blocking blue light as well, block blue light. What else? Just make sure you're eating enough fat, enough protein. Maybe play around with when you eat as well. That some people, they feel that when they eat a bit later, they sleep better. Some people need to eat a little bit earlier and they sleep better. That's basically what I do. So that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, and I think actually understanding that there's a thing called biphasic sleep. So if you get up, are you getting up to urinate, for instance? If you're getting up to urinate, then don't drink so much. I mean, that's what I would say. Or don't drink so late in the day. Don't worry. If I sort of have consults with people, I always use this corny line: don't lose sleep over losing sleep. Understand it. That's the thing you should do. What's causing it? Are you triggering yourself? I mean, if you look online and you're on your, iPad or watching a scary film just before you go to bed, that's not the best environment. So all of those things will help you to make the environment a bit better. You can look at other things as well, where you have got, what did you say? Magnesium glycinate. Well, you could look at other things. Melatonin is another one. So glycine on its own. But yeah, hopefully that was enough there to give you a little bit of a push in the right direction. I think just in the environment, isn't it? That's the main.
I think it's the most important thing for sleep, the environment, definitely more so than diet. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, somebody asked me the other day, how am I getting so many Substacks out? Well, I get up. I have a little rule. If it's gone 5 o'clock in the morning and I get up, I get up. The other day it was 4:59, which shows these rules are just crazy. And I thought, yes.
If I wait another 30 seconds, it might turn. I don't.
Yes. So, right. Nuria here is, I think, the next question. So the thing is, you see, when Richard does an answer, it gives me a chance to do the admin. But when Lee's on, it's like, I've got no chance.
Don't know.
Nuria is saying, so confusing, all these carnivores adding back carbs, but just a little, then lipotoxicity, then Dr. Kiltz. Where do you want to start?
I heard about this from someone else was it yesterday? Yes, it was yesterday. And I hadn't watched a lot of this content recently, so I don't know who we're talking about here. If people are is it clickbait? Is it they're actually adding carbs back in?
Yeah.
Right, okay. I mean, look, whatever anybody does with their diet lifestyle, that's your business. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't, no string off my back. No, So I don't know. What do I think of it? Maybe they're doing experiments. Maybe they have some problems that they haven't aired sort of previous to doing these experiments. I don't know. I don't know what it's about. No idea.
Okay.
No idea.
Well, you're like Richard. You don't watch these things, and Richard doesn't watch it because he hasn't got time. But I have a few people that send me the videos, and I don't mind that. But it is always the same old things. And there are people that I really like and trust. Dr. Lisa, for instance, she's recently looked at this. There's a few things that are wrong with how they talk about it. Firstly, they talk about the A1C, and I'm sorry, Lee, you've heard this so many times. It's a bit boring. And for people that have watched me, this is, but it's a big one. So we'll go through it very quickly. And I'm going to start this in a different way. There are labs looking at the HbA1c because they know it's unreliable. And they know it's unreliable because it's a calculator type thing, it's a calculated measurement. So it's all based on the life of the red blood cells. So you can have an artificially low HbA1c, think you have no problems. But if you're hemolytic anemic, which just basically means your red blood cells don't live as long, it's a false reading. So we have to look at your daily average blood glucose. It's a very, very unreliable marker, right? So that's the first thing. So if you have your red blood cells living longer, you can have an artificially high HbA1c. That's really common in carnivore. People that come to me, they get proper service where we look at the proper markers, and that's not one of them. Not one of them. And I'm a diabetes specialist, and I've been doing this for 16 years. It's your daily blood glucose that matters. That's what matters. Also, if it is good, how much insulin is there in the background? Because this is one of the things I'm noticing of a lot of these influencers. Oh, my blood glucose is a bit better now. Is it? What's your insulin then? What's causing that? Now, one of the people, I think his name is Zane, he was saying, gluconeogenesis, that's very stressful. That's a big problem, which is driven by cortisol. And people are gaining a bit of weight. So when they put a bit of carbs back in, that seems to suppress the cortisol and they start losing weight. Well, hang on a minute. You've added some carbs back in and your insulin's gone up. Isn't that supposed to stop fat storage? So he hasn't even got the physiology correct. Because if he's thinking that adding carbs back in is going to make you lose a bit of weight in the way he's describing, I'm not denying that people have lost some weight. It's a bit like the sugar diet, where it isn't the sugar that made people lose weight. It was the fact that there was a restriction in protein, for instance, that caused it. And they don't think about this in any way, shape, or form that's sort of joined up, because these people are also the ones that say, my T3 has tanked, my thyroid has tanked. Well, T3, if you raise that, T3 actually takes a part in stimulating gluconeogenesis. So it's not joined up in any way, shape, or form. It's not the right physiology they're looking at. What's also a big problem, I think they talked about hair thinning, which is undereating. So when Dr. Lisa was talking about what she'd been doing, and she talked about calories, not a big fan of calories, but people understand it. You know, she was eating 1,200 a day. That's not enough. That's not enough if you're active. So undereating can actually make you gain weight. So there is ever such a lot really about this. Losing weight on the scale, that could be bone mass, bone mineral density. It could be muscle mass that you're losing. So I don't think adding carbs in any way, shape, or form is good. Obviously, what you're doing is swapping one problem for another. You're adding more glycation. Now, we all know about glycation. We just mentioned the HbA1c, which is about glycation. And what you're doing is you're saying, right, okay, I'm going to game a number. Actually, I'm going to game a couple of numbers. And the other thing that I think it's Zane said was, you know, my ApoB went down. Well, ApoB is the protein attached to LDL, low density lipoproteins, nothing to do with cholesterol, by the way. Well, when you have sterols, plant sterols, that brings your LDL down because, I mean, Nick Norwitt's proved this categorically by eating Oreo cookies. That brought his LDL down. Bringing your LDL down will bring your ApoB down, and ApoB isn't even the problem anyway in the first place. But what is a problem is any protein being glycated. So he could bring his ApoB down, but glycate it because you're eating glucose. Then the clue is in the name. So I'm getting very close to a bit of a rant, but which I don't really want to do. One of the people I deal with, I think, has put a message on Lisa's channel for me to go and have a chat, because it's very misleading for so many people. So stop looking at the HbA1c, because that is unreliable. Categoric, absolutely, definitely. Your T3 hasn't tanked. It's appropriate. You know, if you're worried about gluconeogenesis, don't put your T3 up, because you will put your gluconeogenesis up. Make your joined up thinking happen. And they also talk about cortisol as if it's a stress hormone. It's not actually. It's a homeostatic hormone. It will make your blood glucose go up, but it will also regulate your blood glucose going down. That's the whole point of cortisol. It is a pulsatile hormone that goes out continually. Sorry, Lee, I'm going on a bit too much for you, mate. Sorry.
No. Great, it's great. All I'm thinking is, like, you know, go back 15,000 years ago and before, you know, were we checking any of this stuff? Absolutely not.
No.
So, like you often say, people are looking at numbers. They're scared of numbers. And we shouldn't be addressing numbers. We should be addressing diet and lifestyle every single time.
Yes.
Whatever problem you have, root cause is diet and lifestyle. You may have some kind of genetic issue. Again, this wasn't a thing, I don't think, you know, 50,000 years ago, but now with all our progress, what we call progress, there's so much sort of bad stimulus all the time, like in our environment, the air we breathe, the lights, the technology, the Wi-Fi, it goes on and on and on. We're sort of getting in trouble. But I think that people, like you say, they're kind of overstressing. They're trying to micromanage all these different things where that's not how you want to go about solving problems. I think that a lot of people, and, you know, there's nothing against these people, but a lot of people, perhaps they try carnivore, they either transition really fast, they're eating perhaps a lot of dairy, and they're not sort of spot on yet with it. They haven't found what works for them, and they abandon the diet. They sort of think, no, I tried carnivore, it didn't work. You know, I tried the carnivore diet, it didn't work. It's like, what was the carnivore diet you tried? You know, let's have a look. How long did it take you to transition from one to another, one diet to another? You know, all of this plays. But I think a lot of people, you know, they have problems. Instead of say, oh, take out the salt, I'll try having more fat, more protein. I'll try, you know, improving lifestyle practices and stuff like that. Some people are quite quick to just start adding things back in again. And if that thing isn't local to you, how would that have been possible anyway? You know, so if you're going to add in some fruit, it's like, well, what fruit is it? Is it local? Is it in season? I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious what we should all be doing. You know, the diet, everybody's diet should be local. Number one, should be based around fatty animal products, ruminant meat specifically. Number two, drink water like the rest of our animal kingdom. Eat when hungry, stop when full. Drink when thirsty, stop when you're hydrated. I think it's very, very simple. If you do have problems, I would definitely look at consulting someone who has a lot of experience talking to many, many hundreds, maybe thousands of carnivores and fixing and helping them with their problems. It's just so nuanced.
It is, and undereating is a big thing. And tribes that have, um, a limited diet, they will have quite a lot of belly fat. I mean, this is a notorious thing, which seems a bit counterintuitive, but the body is so smart. There's a scarcity of food; it will lower your metabolic rate, and it will store food for you for later. So under eating, and I think Kelly Hogan has always said this for at least 5 years. I know she's been talking about under eating is the bane of her life, absolute bane of her life. So that leads into the lipotoxicity. We have spoken about this before because there's different ways that the fat cells, you can get like hyperplasia, you get hypertrophy. So when the fat cells get bigger, obviously that's hypertrophy, and sometimes hyperplasia, there's more fat cells. That makes a big difference. And then you get, inflammation because, again, the body is really smart. If your fat cells start to expand, what happens is they get further away from blood vessels. So the body adds a blood vessel, just makes blood vessels for the fat cells, and that's basically inflammation. But that inflammation is physiological, but it's pathological in the fact that you're making the fat cells bigger in the first place. And that comes down to your macronutrient ratios. Hate to say that, but in nature we eat the meat as it comes, basically, and or eggs, which is 50-50 by weight. And when you start talking about calories, that's the wrong way to go. We need to talk about mass of food. That's so simple, isn't it, Lee? Really
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, every time, again, I think everyone in this space should really set an example for that way of speaking, talking like we should be talking. There are no calories in food. To try and
No,
count something that doesn't exist in food is just absolutely ridiculous. But most people don't know that. People think that it's energy, it's just this energy model, and we can work it out and track it and count it. And look, for some people, it actually seems to work quite well. This is the thing. I'm not dogmatic. I'm not going to be like a cult like
no.
individual about it. Some people use that and they can have a lot of success. But, what about people with autoimmunity? What about people with hormone issues and underlying problems that aren't being resolved, whether they're seeing a GP, medical doctor or not? The answer is not, hey, I've got some drugs and it's going to solve the problem. It's like, no, that won't solve the problem. It's all
Mm,
about diet and lifestyle every single time. And it's just being like a meticulous investigator into your diet and lifestyle and figuring out what works for you.
yeah, I know. And it's just, I'm trying to give Nuria um, as much as much credit because I know she's really studious about this, and she's a school member, so maybe we'll talk about this later. But re- resorting to baked potatoes is certainly not a good idea at all. So just to give you an idea, now I've got the calculations for this, and I can give people the studies if they're interested. But the biggest stress you could do to your body is eat carbohydrates, because what's actually happening there is a huge stress on the blood glucose. So we're supposed to have about 5 milligrams, or 5 grams of glucose in 5 liters of water, okay, which works out to be around 100 milligrams per deciliter. Now, all the studies will say there's no real problems up to about 130 milligrams per deciliter. For some reason, people have got it in their head, it's got to be under 100, which is just ridiculous. But the weird thing is, they're also the people that add carbs. If you add 50 grams of carbs, theoretically speaking, if there were no mechanisms, stress response mechanisms to this toxicity, that would take your blood glucose up to 1,000 milligrams per deciliter. It's just 50 grams of carbs. But we have mechanisms to deal with it. Huge amounts of insulin will come out. We will convert some to lactate. Basically, it's distributed across the body very, very quickly. So you don't get a reading of 1,000 milligrams per deciliter. And you don't really tend to see a reading of about 250. But that's what's happening in volume. And the concentration of your blood glucose is going just literally through the roof. And
Mm.
that's why, if you go to what diabetes is, the reason people start to drink a lot and then urinate a lot is because the body is telling you to drink a lot to dilute that glucose and then urinate it out because it wants to get shot of it because it's that toxic. So if you do 50 grams of carbs, you are putting your insulin up. You're glycating not just your HbA1c, the hemoglobin, adult, by the way, that's what that stands for. C, which one is which is the part that we look at. You're glycating collagen. You're glycating albumin. And once that bond is made, glycation isn't stickiness, it's an atomic bond. You are making that protein dysregulated. And that's right across the board. Now, one of the things you do is you dysregulate your red blood cells. There are 4 structural proteins. Now, 40% of the red blood cell structure is lipids as well. So also you're going to suffer a little bit of lipid peroxidation. But let's get back to the glycation. You're glycating the nitrogen parts in your hemoglobin. So you are dysregulating yourself there. Absolutely, 100%. Collagen, definite. Albumin, definite. All proteins, you are dysregulating them because of that. So Nuria, I think we've flogged that a little bit. I think, have we gone too far on that, Lee? Are we done enough, do you think?
Good. Let's move on now.
Yeah, let's move on. Yeah. Right. We've got Leicester's Skeptic Tank Obsessions is become a new member. That's very good. Thank you very much. Right. Now then, this is an interesting question. Ohms, which is when I did electrical college, ohms is something to do with resistance, isn't it? Anyway, right. On carnivore, how can I best restore glycogen after sprint training? Feeling really fatigued in my legs.
You don't have to replace glycogen. Your body will do it. but I mean, I always just think, I like, if I'm going to do any kind of training, I don't train like that, but actually I do occasionally sprint. But yeah, if I do some training or anything, I usually do it fasted. I always feel like I've got more energy. I get workout. And then just later again, when I'm hungry, I just sit down and eat fatty red meat to satiety. Salt to taste, water to thirst. That's it. Your body will do it naturally. You don't have to replace glycogen, just like you don't heal the body. Your diet and lifestyle is hopefully appropriate, and the body takes care of the rest, basically.
Yeah, that's what I think. Absolutely. Paul very politely is saying, can I ask your opinion on eggs? I suffer slightly with my skin.
Not sure why it would cause skin issues unless you just have an adverse effect with eggs. Some people do, usually the whites. Not sure why it would cause skin issues. I just don't like, again, I always upset people with this, but it's just the way it is. I don't think we should be eating eggs every day. We never did. When did we ever eat eggs every day? And I know that might probably piss people off, but I feel better without them. I've never experienced any skin issues with eggs though, so I'm not too sure what the culprit would be. I don't even believe the anti-nutrients are a problem, even if you eat raw eggs. That's me. Most people, I think, obviously, if you're worried, just cook the whites. Trying to think what would be the issue with eggs, unless it's just from barn cage terrible chickens just making terrible eggs, and for whatever reason it's something in the food. I don't know.
There's an over-mucoid in the white, which can be problematic, and this is why some people have issues with a whole egg, but can do well with just yolks.
Yeah.
So years ago, when there was the health trend, and I believed in all the high carbs, and I went over and did my posy thing at Gold's Gym at Venice Beach, I remember us cringing now. I ordered an egg white omelette. So all the goodness taken out, really, because that was a real trendy thing to do. Followed by, later on in what's following day, I was having oatmeal and skim milk. But the point of the eggs is, I think, firstly, you're right, Lee, if they're caged chickens, the quality of the egg is not so great. But in the main, you could try just yolks, I think, and just see how you get on.
Yeah, Andrew Scarborough's just put duck eggs are easier to tolerate if you're sensitive. I agree. And I have found that other people have said the same thing. So you could always try that first, and then again, switch out chicken yolks, egg yolks, and then the duck egg yolks. And then otherwise, eat meat until you can't eat anything else. Don't worry about the eggs. That's what I think.
Yeah. And they're such a good source of everything. That's why people worry, I think, because
I understand that. Yeah, and it's a great source of things like choline. I do understand that, and it's very convenient. Eggs, boiled eggs, it goes well with steak. I love eggs. They taste great. But for some people, if it's causing you problems, just get rid of it like everything else.
Yeah. Okay. Another interesting question here. I'm on carnivore a few years, but recently I started feeling I lose my tooth enamel. Any thoughts, please? You ever heard anyone complain of that, Lee?
Not from people that don't either smoke drink things like teas and coffees, like relentlessly. Not if they don't. Yeah, carbs are the thing really that's going to do the problem. Starch is probably the worst thing. Sugars and things like that.
Mm.
I don't know if dairy can be a problem, actually, even for that as well. But some people have found when they drink milk and even have cheeses and things like that, they've noticed a sort of extra tartar build-up, like plaque, kind of thing, that hard plaque stuff. But I can't think why that would happen, why you'd be losing your enamel, unless you're smoking things, Weed is probably the worst thing. Meth, maybe even better, even worse, because it's drying out your mouth. You never want to dry your mouth out, whatever it is. If a little habit or whatever, don't do something that dries out your mouth. So
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think you're right about the acid erosion. That's normally from carbohydrates. It could be some simple things. I mean, we've been trying to do simple fixes for most people tonight so far. So you could be brushing too hard. You could have, one of those sonic toothbrushes. You're just going hell for leather for it. When you go carnivore, actually, you tend to get most people have improvements in all of their bone health, their pockets. I have terrible teeth
I bad.
historically.
Yeah, I'm the same. But I don't have good skin or good teeth. But this
Yeah.
was true before I went carnivore.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could find that the fact that you're now biting and chewing and doing things properly, whereas you didn't before, you do get a few excessive forces, but that's very unlikely to wear out your enamel. There could be a little bit of demineralization going on, maybe just from not eating enough. Um, Take the fluoride out of the of the toothpaste. Take the fluoride out. Don't use tap water in anything. That might help you as well. I know that's contra to what
Mm.
the mainstream says, but pretty much everything we say is contra to what the mainstream says.
Yeah.
So Dave's got a question here, which I think I'll be able to catch up on my admin while you answer. Narrowly avoided ostomy and living with a third of my colon remaining from Crohn's. Carnivore has been a godsend this past year and a half. Symptom free without meds. Did you want to talk
Well
about that?
done. I envy you, basically. No, but good for you. Good for you. Just spread the word. Don't get in people's faces about it. And be pushy. But yeah, good for you. Just carry on. It's life changing. Even if you have an ostomy, life gets better when you take out plant foods. The whole plant foods, everything that's so healthy for us, all the things we see advertised, you'd get rid of that and things improve.
Yes. Brilliant. Now, you're not Richard, I tell you. MJ, hey, Stephen, I purchased some of that fat cow soap. It is fantastic. The person with the skin, that's another thing, and I didn't mention it. So I have a link in the description normally. I don't know if I got around to it today, but I will do later. Fat cow, that is fantastic. And that's what I use on my beautiful skin. You wouldn't believe I was 161.
Is that to wash with, or is it a moisturizer, or what is that?
No, it's just, well, everything. I just shower. That's the only thing I use.
Right. Okay. Cool.
My
Cool.
hair.
That and purchase some myself. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Get 15% off with my link.
Cool. Cool. Link it, man. I'll be there.
Let's have a look. Oh yeah, Cami, good supporter. Is I need some carbs to sleep. That's just how it is for me. Tried everything. There are carnivore carbs you can try if you can tolerate dairy, for example. That's brilliant. See, I think one of the things is and Richard talks about this. Just having a meal late at night is for some people works. Just a carnivore meal. It is not so much the carbs; it's the reaction. It's a little bit more insulin in there, which would also be promoted a little bit with little bit of meat, and I think it's
Only
just a bit.
problem with that, it does play on the other hormones that are supposed to be at the ready for your sleep, etc. That's the only
Yeah,
thing. People like Sarah Pugh don't like that. Look, you do what works for you. We're not the type of people that handing your carnivore card. You were never carnivore to begin with. No, and actually, look, dairy is carnivore anyway. Technically, you could drink nothing and eat nothing but just milk and cheese. It's the worst carnivore diet on the planet, but you'd still carnivore. So yeah, you just do whatever works for you.
yeah, absolutely. Right, I'm just checking. You're too quick. I'm not used to it. Right, let's get to the next question. Rightio. Is it important to consume organs or any keyboard or a Steinway, or is it or is everything covered with fatty red meat? Have read that there is a lot of zinc in it. Ground beef and liver has more copper to balance it out. Um, I would say copper is underestimated in this diet. One of the things I was going to say when we talk about hair thinning, I think it's people avoiding copper because iron is critical in many processes, and T3 processing requires a little bit of zinc and a little bit of copper, but iron metabolism definitely requires copper. So if you're struggling a little bit, you could experiment with a little bit of organ meat. Don't go over the top like Paul Saladino did and make every other meal have organs in. And Richard, who I was hoping would log on but hasn't, he puts it nicely. If you look at the whole animal and how much is taken up by the liver, that could guide you as your ratio. So a whole chicken, tiny little liver. So we're talking, no, we're not talking liver every single day, but a little bit maybe once a week. And that would give you all the copper you need and vitamin E and vitamin A. I think you'll be fine. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, if you're going to consume all these organs and you really like liver, you should actually look at it like that. I need to eat ancestrally. I need to eat in the ratio that is in a cow, in a ruminant animal, whatever you like, lamb, beef, etc. Yeah, you're not going to be eating it all the time. I'm a bigger fan of, if you enjoy eating it, then yeah, eat in that way strategically. If you don't, I wouldn't force feed anything that you don't enjoy. Don't think that you need to consume liver because that's the primal way. That's the most ancestrally consistent, the most nutrient dense food. Oh my God, I need to eat so much liver. No, you don't. Especially if you don't like it. And the idea really is you're supposed to enjoy your food, as in like when you're hungry, you're not supposed to like, oh, I'm so hungry, like, oh, it's so disgusting. you know, So just listen to your body, and yeah, there is a place for this stuff. Like if you have histamine issues, then eating some kidney's a good idea. Maybe some deficiencies in certain things, maybe a bit of liver here and there is a good thing. But I believe in also bone marrow, making broths, but also don't eat, and this is my opinion, you do what you need to do, but I don't believe ribeye and eggs, ribeye and eggs, ribeye and eggs, ribeye and eggs. You really think that you used to take down a cow and a deer and then we just ate the ribeye section, the eggs, and just left the rest? No, like we worked our way through. And so I'm a big believer in sort of the nose to tail. You don't have to eat the nose. I've eaten a tail this year. I've eaten the heart this year. I've eaten some spleen, some skirts, some chucks, some sirloin. When the butcher says, "Oh, we got some brain. Do you want some brain?" Yep, I'll have some brain. I haven't had that yet this year. So I like to eat what I believe is the proper ancestral way of eating ruminant meat, nose to tail. If you're going to eat plants, local, seasonal, right, there you go. That's it. Jobs are good.
You're a star, mate. Thank you so much for covering, by the way. I'm just going to share screen because a couple of people have said, you mentioned a thing called School. What's that? School is this group that we do here. And this is what it looks like. You can join our school community. I'll put a link in the chat right now if you want to join. And basically, Richard and I run this school community. I'm going to speak to Lee later about if he's ever going to do any of it. Well, I'll speak in a minute about it, actually. We've got a classroom, which is really great. You can do loads of courses. These are all free. That you open up levels, the more active you are. You can go through all of that. If you get to level 8, there's 3 of my books there available as ebooks. But we've got free ebooks on every single level: fruit and veg, dairy, thyroid, the whole thing, protein, problem solving. So that's great. And in the calendar, you'll see that we do lots of lives. So in a minute, or about 30 minutes, we'll be in school doing a live question and answer. I think it's going to be me on me Todd, as they say in Britain. But if you look, this week we did one at 6 o'clock. We did one at 7 on Wednesday. We did a 9 a.m. one. And then we are here. We did 7 o'clock and here we are at 8. This is the 12th of October. So I've slipped up here. I didn't put it in here, but we've still got people watching. So that's really good. Anyway, let's stop that screen share. Are you thinking of doing a school thing, Lee? Or
Yeah, I'm thinking of setting up my consultant services from that and running it off school, basically, and any other services, any other things to do with me, you'll find it there, perhaps. I just need to get round to doing it, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're live and we're in front of people, but if you wanted to set it up temporarily in our school community, you could do that and I'll help you set up.
Yeah, it's getting around to committing to all the rest of it, but the Calendly, linking everything up.
Yeah. Well, I'll just message me and I'll go through it with you. It's fine. Right. So let's have a look. Consume organs. We've done that one. Oh, here we go. This is a nice, easy question from Josh Freed. 2 weeks ago, I started eating more food. My diet is 1 kilogram of chicken drumsticks, 500 grams of beef mince, and 10 eggs. I'm assuming that's per day. I feel great, but I can notice my stomach is getting bigger. Do you suggest cutting down?
That's a lot of proteins. I don't. This is just me. My opinion here is that I wouldn't be eating that much chicken. Again, it's just the fat profile, omega-3 to omega-6 ratios, etc., things like that. What is the question? Which goes to, should I cut back? Yeah, potentially. It just depends on how you feel, though. I mean, that's amazing if you get that in one meal. I'd like to know if you if you eat one meal a day, or if you're eating 2 or 3. But perhaps, I like 1 or 2 for men, 2 or 3 for women. That's, again, my own opinion. But yeah, I would perhaps, maybe it's a money thing. I don't know. I would definitely be eating all of the beef first, and then then the eggs, and then perhaps the chicken. But that is totally up to you. I mean, it could be to do with what the chickens are eating. Again, I don't know the quality of the chickens that you're sourcing. When I do eat chicken, it's always pastured chickens. And if it's not, I can tell I only need to eat about 3 chicken wings or a couple of drumsticks, and my body tells me that's not right for you. It's the animals I eat have to be eating what they're supposed to eat as well. Otherwise, I feel it. But if anything, you're doing things that a lot of people can't do. Gain a belly on carnivore, that's quite hard going. That so, yeah, wear a badge of honor.
Yes, I think somebody here is saying about Nuria. Just did a quick follow up. Dr. Kiltz was worried about his CAC score, I think. Well, yeah, mine was 639. Now, this is where there's nuance, because if it goes up, how much did it go up by? Because there is the study Dave Feldman did, where he said plaque begets plaque, or you can improve the title to plaque predicts plaque. If you've already got plaque, it might go up a bit. Now, I had a score before I did all this at 639. So 11 years later, there would be some level of plaque progression, I would think. Whereas Jane had a 0 score because she didn't eat bread and potatoes. Simple as that. I mean, that's what she puts it down to. She's always been a sort of egg and bacon sort of girl, which she didn't realize was carnivore. So the chances of her having a plaque score above 0 is quite remote. Mine may have gone up, but, and here's the nuance, how much would it have gone up by if I wasn't carnivore? And that's what we'll never know. So we have to look at the average progression. Now, if my progression is less than the average, I'm probably a little bit happy about that. And also, one of the things I always bore people with is, don't forget, that is nature's stent. So I've done some damage to my coronary arteries at some point, and that stent needs topping up. It's the non-calcified plaque that people worry about actually for health. So, many people are putting in the chat that all these people have had ice cream and glass of red wine and all these sort of things, ivermectin. So there's lots of confounders around that. But let's go to the next question. Okay. Did you want to add on that one at all?
Not really. I mean, again, all of these things can be attributed to diet and lifestyle. If we didn't do it 50,000 years ago, cut back on it.
Yeah.
Or quit. Just stop doing it.
Yes. Right. So we've got a great comment. How would you pronounce that name? Right, I'm not going to do it. Right. Yeah. Why are people worried about markers like A1C? Yeah, why? Exactly. Instead of actual damages like the thinned glycocalyx, which is thinned out very much by carbohydrates. So that's happening to those people that are adding them back in. Fatty liver. I think people are worried about that. It's difficult to actually get the imaging done. And fatty kidneys. Yes, exactly. I mean, organ damage and those sort of structural problems are definitely much more serious than the A1C. But that's what people get lots of tests for. They get lots of labs. It's an easy thing to go down that route and get all those numbers, and then watch an influencer absolutely destroy any nuance of what they're about. But I agree with you. I think there's much more interesting markers to look at. But as Lee says, how do you look and feel? If you feel really bad, then the markers are just to help you diagnose or sort of get to the bottom of maybe what's happening. But I think just use your common sense and take things out of your diet that like you say, like we wouldn't have done even maybe 100 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Right. Let's have a look. And I am now up to date with the ones that I've starred. So I'm going to have to flick through and just put up what people are putting on. So I had a hard time eating ground beef. Andrew, yes. Oh, yeah, this is very good from Andrew Scarborough. I noticed some of these people are emotional eaters. Yes. And or they're overstimulated in the evenings. This is my chill time. Room is dark and red and I'm relaxed.
Yeah. Good
Way to
times.
go.
I've been holding
Yeah.
these the whole time, but I put them on and I'm reflecting just it looks crazy, so I didn't put them on.
Well, put them on. Let's have a look.
Blue blockers. It's just the room. And because I don't know if I've got a funny shaped head, but they don't quite fit, and so I've got this this little toggle that I secure so it stays on my head comfortably.
Okay. What's this about? Here we go. Right. It's interesting, though, that their morning blood glucose plus A1C goes down even if they only add veggies back, not all carbs at all. So not glycation. Interested to hear why veg would lower A1C. Because it shortens the red blood cell life. It's nothing to do with glycation. The A1C is being glycated, but it's a calculation. The number they give you has the life of the red blood cell in there. So if you eat veggies, they actually are detrimental to the hemoglobin and to the structure of the red blood cell. We make 2.5 million red blood cells every single second. We recycle 2.5 million red blood cells every single second. The body does not want to make red blood cells that only last 120 days. They don't want to make red blood cells that die after 60 days. They want ones that last 150 days or between 120 and 150. And I think that's the point you keep missing, Cami, which is it's a calculation. The glycation is happening. If you've got glucose in your system, it is sticking, as they say, but let's be honest, it is a bond, an irreversible bond. A shift base is actually what it is. It's a reaction, a Maillard reaction, then you get shift base, then you get this permanent bond to that protein. Every single protein will have that. So if you put any glucose into your system, that will happen. So the red blood cell will be damaged and it will go to the spleen. It will go to the sinusoid of the spleen. And there's like a section there where it's a bit like a Disney ride. If you're this big, over this big, you can't ride. All right. Because the red blood cell needs to deform. That's what it needs to do. It needs to deform to go around all these areas. And if you have glycation, it can't. And also, if it's damaged, so there's proteins around the edge of the red blood cell. If they're damaged, it sends a signal. I think it's called phosphatidylcholine, comes out and it tells the macrophage to eat it up. But you get a lower A1C. So that's it, basically. There's carbohydrates in veg. There's carbohydrates in so many things that they're eating. Right, next thing. Pavlo? Palvo. Hi, I understand that carbohydrates are metabolized into sugars. Well, they're broken down to glucose, yes. But what does that actually mean at the cellular level? How does that compare to when we eat fat and protein? I think you actually got it. Carbohydrates all break down into glucose molecules. So that's it. So glucose then goes into the Krebs. I don't want to overdo it, but it goes into the Krebs cycle. It becomes acetyl-CoA, and then it can go off and it can produce ATP. That's a really shortened version of it. Fat will be what's called it's beta oxidation. Basically, fats go via the lymphatic system. Most fats, if they're long-chain fatty acids, which is what we get from food mainly. This is why Richard goes on about medium-chain triglycerides, because they don't need to go through the lymphatics. They are actually pretty quickly absorbed. And then you've also got ketones, which are very small and, 2 to 5 carbons, which means that they are readily uptaken. And that's it really. Fats mainly that we eat go around the lymphatic system and then they end up packaged up in VLDL, very low density lipoproteins, along with cholesterol and fat soluble vitamins. These little particles run out through your body, through your circulation, and they have a thing called ApoB on eventually. We will talk about that in detail, but that's like the tag that says this is what this is. That is attached when it becomes like an LDL and low density lipoprotein. So we started with VLDL, then it becomes an IDL, intermediate dense lipoprotein, then it becomes an LDL, low density lipoprotein, and it becomes HDL, and all this sort of thing. And that's how we transport the fat around, and it can basically do really good. And then protein makes structure, so that gets broken down to amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and they link up. You can have what's polymers of glucose become glycogen, and amino acids, they go end to end, or they fold, and it's just amazing. Can't really do it justice on here, but I think if you join the school or my Substack, it'll all be explained much better for you. Does that make sense? Is that all right, Lee?
Yeah, nothing to add there, really.
Are our cells getting different kinds of molecules for energy in these cases, or are all these nutrients eventually converted in the same type of fuel inside the cell? Well, they all become acetyl-CoA. That's it. And that's the governor, really. And then they become other things.
The nuance for me, one glycates, one doesn't, right? The sugar glycates. One creates twice the amount of ATP, one doesn't. So the one that doesn't is the sugar metabolism again. One contains the fats, contain essential nutrients, sugar doesn't. One makes more water, the sugar doesn't. The brain and the heart and most of the body love ketones, not so much sugar. It's kind of a no-brainer. And what's available, fats and meat, in the ocean, on the land, in the sky, in nests everywhere, right? But carbs are quite hard to come by. And if you think that we've changed them so much, that to me, it's like you've got this extra carbohydrate content with probably less fiber, perhaps in ratio. And so the glycations, it's got to be worse now than ever. I know that we've perhaps made some of these things edible, but glycations through the roof. So yeah, that's the nuance for me. It's kind of like, it's not even close. Fats all day long is the preferred, the most advantageous fuel.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Although Palvo's go into what does it end up in, what happens along the way is really important. So, for instance, people talk about acid base. This way of eating, lots of meat is acidic. Actually, that's completely 180 to what the truth is. Eating carbohydrates is actually acidic, and I can explain why. Because throughout the Krebs cycle, which is when we get to acetyl-CoA from pyruvate, it starts to make what's called carbon dioxide. Now, you're going to go, that's not an acid, but bear with me 1 second. And 3 more times in the Krebs cycle, we make carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, when it meets water, and I don't know if you noticed, but the body is pretty much a lot of water. As soon as it combines with water, it becomes carbonic acid. So carbohydrate ingestion is actually the most acidic of the 3 things. There's water made in the processing of, like I say, getting that down to the energy. So that's on the way. The electron transfer chain also makes water, by the way, just out of interest. But anyway, if you have protein, amino acids actually can reduce the acidity because they are proton acceptors and proton donors. So this isn't the acidic way of eating. It is the best way to eat if you want to control your body's pH. So, yes, you're right about looking at what ends up in the cell is a good way of looking at it. But what the damage that goes along the way is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I mean, imagine just like trying to fly to France or walk to France. The end is that you're both in France, but it's kind of like, but what did it take to get there? There's an easier, better way to get there, isn't there? So
that's a good analogy. Actually, I like that. Yeah. What are you going to France for? Sorry?
I crawled on my hands and knees to France. Don't have much left of my hands and knees, but it's all the same thing.
But the end result is Lee is in France, annoying all the people in France. And but that's right. So good question. I quite like that. Ian is asking, do you ever break carnivore and go for a Chinese and a pint? So in England, we call, obviously this guy's in England, we call Chinese food going for a Chinese. It's not racist. That's what we say because it's Chinese food and a pint of beer. I never do that.
No, that to me, honestly, if I could, that was probably the worst thing I could think of to pair, just Chinese and a pint of beer. Like, I suppose I just look at it differently. But for me as well, when I had my my problem, Chinese takeaways were a nightmare for me with IBD. Oh my goodness. It's so greasy with oils. It's all fried. It's sugary. It's fibrous because they love the vegetables as well. It's absolutely terrible. So, and beer, you're talking like just the mashed up grains and poison and glyphosate in a can. It's pretty unfortunate stuff. It's like red wine, beer and red wine. It's got to be some of the worst stuff you can consume. But hey, one a day at the end of your day is so good for you.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, hang on a minute. Right, let's have a look at the next question, which is, see, this is what I like to hear Dave say. I've now been years without checking any of these metrics. I just know I'm healthier than I've been in a decade since switching to carnivore a year and a half ago, Crohn's symptoms free and 0 medications. That's very good. Thank you, Dave. Some sense. Phil W., unless you check your reticulocyte blood work, you can't know the lifespan of your RBCs and what your A1C actually means. Well, that's right. That's true. Carnivore muscle. Fructosamine is a better measure to use. Absolutely. And the main reason for that is it's looking at 3 week lifespan of red blood cells. In that time, it's very unlikely the red blood cells will be affected by the lifespan. Most of them last at least 3 weeks. So, you've also got a fill back in toxins such as lectins in veg could also damage the red blood cell. Yeah, absolutely. Kilt's mentioned many times he eats carbs, just a bit on a rare occasion. I think his change only is that he moved away from fatty steak daily to fish. Right, okay.
Yeah, I'm a big believer of fish. I eat fish once or twice a week.
Yep, I just had a massive salmon, which is really good. He also drinks alcohol. Yeah, sorry. Yep.
No, you go.
Yeah, sorry, mate. He also drinks alcohol on occasion, but he's blaming red meat. Yes, yeah. Anyway, yes, exactly. To Ian Drain, you do you, okay? Needy question much? I don't think so, Jim. But I think you were just asking whether we go off track a little bit, and that is a good phrase, though. You do you, because if someone comes on and says, "Well, I've just started adding carbs back in, and I feel great," more power to your elbow. I think both Lee and I are in this to make people feel their healthiest they could be, but we're also in it to sort of say, is it temporary? What's the underlying damage you're doing? Because I promise you, up until age 40, when I was high carb, I thought I was doing fantastic. Bodybuilding show, brilliant at soccer, won a tennis tournament. I think I looked at Kane, the abs were great. I didn't feel embarrassed when I went to Gold's Gym. And then when I got to 40, it all caught up with me. Pre-diabetic, lower left quadrant pain, the works. I don't smoke, I don't drink. There was no other blame than my diet, not my lifestyle.
You should have started smoking and drinking, mate.
Yes.
I know someone who lived 200, so that's what we should all be doing.
Yes. Yeah. Let's have a look. Bernie here. This is how do I protect myself against future UTIs? As I was miserable in hospital because they won't help carnivores transition back. They won't help carnivores transition back to carbs. I was starving in hospital because my family was out of town, I think that is. Well, I mean, you could fast, but if you're hungry, it is a case of trying to get some food brought in. That you just have to do that because the hospitals are atrocious. What did you do, Lee? Because you recently.
I always had people bring in food. I wouldn't touch anything that I didn't drink their water. I had everything brought in. So I was quite fortunate to have people available to me that were willing to make whatever it is, about 35, 45-minute drive, depending on traffic and etc. Everyone thought I was nuts. Sitting with just chicken and after a while, I'm eating these big old steaks with my hands, with my little gown on. After a while, they're like, "Yeah, you look way too healthy to be here. We'll send you home," I think. But in terms of urinary tract infection, is that what that is?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
I would look at the water you're drinking as well. I'd definitely stay away from tap water. My partner Lucy instantly suffers when she drinks, so we don't even touch the stuff. Perhaps distill and mineralize your water. What else? Fasting as a tool when necessary can help you, and that's it really.
Yeah, I think when you're in hospital, I mean, don't over drink. That's the other thing. When you are not in hospital and before you go in, and this is just broad for everyone, if your urine is clear, you're drinking too much water. and it needs to be straw coloured, lightly straw coloured. There needs to be parts per million in there. It is a waste product. So
Yeah.
that's what you want. You want it to have waste in it. If you
Yeah.
drink a lot of water, you will put your blood pressure up. That is absolutely nailed on, because that's that's going to add to your blood volume. That water is not compressible. That goes into your system. And that's another thing, if you've got fizzy water, I drink a little bit of fizzy water. Well, that carbon dioxide will hit my stomach and make carbonic acid. So if you're drinking fizzy water and you start burping, it could just be the fizzy water, but it's not the actual water. It's the fizz. It's the carbon dioxide that's been pumped into it. And we use a soda stream so we can make it less fizzy. And I noticed that before we got the soda stream, I used to get the fizzy water because I like a little tiny bit of the fizz. I'd actually take the top off and just leave it in the kitchen with the top off, so it wasn't so fizzy. So I think that's one of the things. But anyway, Lee, that's been brilliant. That's been brilliant, mate. Thank you so much for being a guest. I
Pleasure.
feel like we should have got Richard popping in. He has actually put it
Yeah.
onto his channel.
Did you see do you see my thumbnail? Just stuck my head on an old thumbnail of you two together. So it's
Did
me
you?
with Richard's suit. The big old head. Yeah, yeah. South Park.
Yes. Yeah, but brilliant. And thanks for the people on your channel for watching. If you
Yeah,
haven't subscribed to mine, please can you come over and do that. Even if you never watch me again, that'd be great.
definitely. Definitely.
Really helps.
No, you definitely need
Um,
to watch Stephen. He knows his stuff.
and same on mine. If you haven't seen Lee before, he knows his stuff, and he's very, very good and interesting. And he has a fantastic service that he's offering, which I would like you, if you've got a minute, you want to tell
Of
us
course.
about it?
Yeah, so the idea around this service is that I was thinking, I think we can all attest to this. If you're doing a carnivore diet, there's someone in your life most likely that's concerned. They're worried about you. They think you're crazy and they don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. So you probably tried to explain and you probably got in maybe a small debate or an argument and it causes problems, But they're worried about your health. That's why, they might shut you down. No, I don't want to hear any more about this silly meat diet, this crazy fad that you're on. And so yeah, my service, the idea is that you book a call in mind that you'll have this loved one or some kind of friend. It could even be someone you work with, to come on and talk with me. And, I'll explain to them why this is the most appropriate way to eat, why it is that you're eating this way, and that that person doesn't need to be concerned about the colon, about the heart, about heart attacks and cancer and all this stuff. And, it's not going to be like I'm debating with them, which it's just calm, honest conversation from someone who's living the lifestyle and gives a damn, basically. That's the whole idea around it. And so if there is someone in your life that doesn't, that basically needs to hear it from someone else, let me explain.
And how do they get hold of you if they want to do that?
I'll leave a link below on my live. I haven't got it there yet. On both of my debunked videos of the recent videos that I've made, there is that link, but it's basically Let Lee Explain, I think, is the website. But yeah, I'll leave it in there. I get a lot of interest because it's amazing, actually. I do get so much interest, which just shows me that there is a need for that. That a lot of people are connecting with this concept that, yeah, they are, their mother, their son-in-law, their uncle, their colleague or boss, they're giving them a bit of a hard time. And it's not like we want to argue with these people, but that we just want them to understand and hopefully put their mind at ease. And you never know, you might even plant a seed. They might actually start to latch on and show more interest to actually adopt a similar way of eating and living for themselves.
Brilliant. Yes. Oh, 3 litres of Pellegrino. That's too much water and too much fizz. Definitely. And I think that's wonderful. So you hit the nail on the head, Lee. You're getting a lot of praise here. Happy birthday, by the way. Happy birthday.
Yeah, I'm 38 all over again. I thought I was 39 today. So Carnivore's so good, I'm going to be 38 for another year.
That's brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. I would say, actually, I will say, it's 51 years today that my dad died, actually.
Right.
And, that's a long time to be without your dad. And I think it's really important if you got your parents around to make sure that you say what you want to say. I was only 10. But anyway, Ribeye Ranger, £5. So happy we found you, brother. That's good.
Cheers, man. Cheers, man.
Yeah. And you're great. You are great. Thank you very much. So YouTubers, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I might be able to get Lee to come over on the school community with me. If I can't, I will see you over there on my own. I won't be able to do any admin at all whatsoever. But thank you, Lee.
You bet. No worries, man. Pleasure.
Okay. But thank you everyone on YouTube. If you're not gonna go over to school, which the link is in the chat, then I will see you next week in State Control Britain at 7 p.m. Unless I've tweeted something, and I'm in prison because I've said something like, "Oh, isn't it terrible not being able to talk in this country?" But hopefully that won't happen. But it's happened to 12,000 people. Yes, we have more people arrested and in prison for social media posts than Russia. Seriously, by 3 times. And think how much bigger that country is as well. It's ridiculous.
It's the biggest country. Unbelievable.
I know. I definitely won't say I like bacon. That'll definitely get me taken out. Anyway, all right. Cheers, everybody. I'm going to stop the stream now and hopefully see you over in school.